Well, we're very excited to be here in the UK on our first tour, having a riot.
We have a pretty good time together. We spend a lot of time joking around, and we walked around Brighton today and walked down to the end of the pier, and we're just constantly like entertaining ourselves. It's it's kind of what you have to do on tour. So.
And when your day is made up of traveling to different places and doing the thing you love the most in life, why not be happy?
Well, I mean, I think that's how we all got together, is because we were all friendly, so we were friends before we decided to make music together, so therefore, it's kind of works out better that way than versus, being married to someone that maybe you don't get along with,
So do you guys think that you're happier when you're together making music in an intense kind of way, like when you're on tour?
Well, generally, we're about the same at home or whatever we're doing, so...
Like, for example, when we're in our rehearsal space in Seattle, we're writing songs and creating new ideas. And when we were at Soundcheck today, we were doing the same thing. I think we came up with about 3 new ideas just kind of playing around at Soundcheck. So I think also new bands tend to be very creative, and there's a lot of ideas flowing, and we're just, enjoying that and seeing what we come up with.
We saw your photos from London.
You haven't seen all of them.
Yeah, that'll be coming at the end of the tour. It's called the Comedy Album.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
He felt like driving a moped off the end of it.
Yeah.
So.
I felt like maybe my Belgian waffle didn't go down so good.
And I felt like I wish Duff McKagan and Barrett Martin wanted to go on a roller coaster with me.
Yeah.
But
that's interesting, isn't it? Because you all felt something quite strong when you're standing.
Well, I was thinking Quadrophenia. This is one of the greatest records ever made, and The Who is one of my favorite bands of all time. So, I've been here one other time, but we just drove through here. I've never played here before. So,
did you have a similar moment in London when you were in a place in London and you all had quite a strong reaction to that one place?
I think the tube itself is pretty. That's just great. I mean, I think most of this, I call it social studies, just to see how different people react to different situations. And it's like you're saying about the sound check, it's like that with a bunch of pressure and a bunch of people here to do interviews and record stuff, and a broken bass amp isn't the time to get testy. You know what I mean? It's not going to make anything operate any smoother, but it's really interesting to see how culturally, since when you put that many people on top of each other, like a city like London, we don't have that at Seattle, so just watching how people interact with each other. It's like, it seems actually the funny thing is people seem more isolated. Yeah, but that's that.
Yeah.
But, the underground, was the most, probably more interesting to me than the Abbey, in some ways.
Yeah.
And I think you're right. I think there's something special about the end of the pier in Brighton.
Yeah.
Yeah. And if I had a similar strong feeling in London, I think seeing places that have so much history sinks in pretty deep. Like something with some permanence that goes back hundreds or thousands of years is interesting to me. I like that. Yeah.
Yeah. We loved the photos of you at St. Paul's, and there was also a photo where one of you said, "It's so old."
Yeah.
The old church,
yes.
The really
Yes.
old church.
Oh.
Yeah, it was beautiful. Yeah, they left like 2 walls standing.
Yeah.
Actually, this funny thing, and this is like a really weird, odd thing, but I had written in my journal, it said it was entering the house of God on the ground floor through a revolving door. I wrote that like 2 days before we went there. And I have these weird things that happen, like same thing with the name Walking Papers. When Barrett had suggested that, I had written it in my journal like a week ahead of time. So there was something really weird about going through. It says you were entering a house of God. It's etched in the glass in the revolving door, like right when I walked in there. So it's like I've been used to kind of maybe ignore that stuff or like just coincidence, but lately like it seems like my intuition tells me to pay attention to those things. So that was kind of, I guess in a weird way, that was like a pretty moving experience. But, you know, I mean, it was enough to, like, you know, I'm telling you now because it was unusual.
Yeah.
But there you go. I don't know if that's deja vu or what that is, or if it's a sign, I don't know what it means. But, you know, it is, if nothing else, it's just odd, isn't it?
What I've noticed really interesting is that in the last couple of minutes, you've mentioned this high level of intuition, which is almost psychic, maybe, but an extremely high level of intuition. Also, you've mentioned the converse of it, which is the isolation, which you rightly noticed in London. So what that is telling me is that as a band, you have a very high emotional connect. Do you guys feel, as a band, do you feel that you're connecting in that type of way? Because you sound like you are.
I think
With each other or with an audience?
with the
each other.
music or
the
with
music,
each
yeah,
other.
with the music, yeah.
I would say that we're all at the point in our lives where the whole reason that we do music and what we get out of it all has to do with connecting to something that might be different for each individual, but we do it for bigger reasons than to try to latch onto something or make something that we think might be, we could do something that would be this.
Yeah.
It's not that, it's just completely taking what's inside of you and what you're getting from your antenna, whatever that might be, and letting that out through you rather than searching for anything. So it is kind of a high touching thing for each of us, I think. Yeah.
When you were doing the session earlier, you seemed so completely content. It was a wonderful thing to see. Do you feel that when you're playing, that you're taking everything and it's joining together?
I personally am conscious of a few different things in this. This is still a newer experience for us playing together in the big scheme of things. So there's a lot of, when you reach a certain point with playing with certain people, you can totally let go and it just flows. But I think with this setup, for me anyway, I'm conscious and engaged in what every person is doing on some level, which is another cool thing too. They both have their benefits, but I'm hyper aware of what's going on with every other person and trying to connect with that.
Yeah.
Ben's hyper aware anyways.
So it's like you're noticing each other.
We all want to be noticed. We all want to be needed. You know, I don't know. You know, I think that's the beauty of music. It's that is the escape. That's why you get there in the first place. You know, you can go there. So if you stop knowing how to go there, then why are you still doing it? I don't know. That's my opinion.
Yeah, I think that what we set out to do was to kind of forge the band, you know, with the short little tour. We're also, you know, we've been doing a lot of interviews and sort of, you know, planting some seeds over here. And I personally wanted to bring the band over to England anyway because it's a great place, you know, to launch a rock band, because we'd only really been playing around the Pacific Northwest, and then, you know, had this opportunity to come over here, and I'd done that with two of my previous rock bands, Screaming Trees and Skinyard, you know, in the early grunge years, and it was the best thing to do, to come over and play, you know, to the British audience, because it gives you this other kind of gauge on how your music is going to be perceived, and also how you perform it, and so you kind of have to get out of your hometown to do that. So,
Yeah.
Plus some of our favorite bands that influenced this band are from here, so it's great to come back.
Well, I just do whatever Dan DeVita tells me to do. So if he says he needs me to be in London on whatever date, that's where I show up. You know,
If he might happen to tell us we need to be in Tulsa on a Wednesday night and stay there for 6 months, we would do that.
Yeah.
I've driven through Tulsa, and you wouldn't want to be there for 6 months. So.
So maybe with reservations. So are we able to then feel the pride of you having kind of launched yourselves in the UK in that way?
We're honored to be here, actually. I mean, really, we're I mean that very sincerely. We're honored to come here and play music for British people, really. And some of the best shows were these smaller towns. We grew up in small towns, You know, we're guys that grew up in small towns and moved to a big city, and then we've played, in many big cities, but playing small towns like Grimsby or Rugby. I guess the opening band has begun. Anyway, yeah, very honored to be here. Yeah.
Thank you so much for having us. We really appreciate it. Yeah.